Good evening. Welcome to Satellite Showtime. I'm Pat Olson. With me this evening is Joe Kelch, who is president of Nova Video Productions. Joe also anchors the Calltronics video newsletter portion of Satellite Showtime. He was on hand when we started a viewership census, wanting to find out who our viewers are. And Joe, the phone calls started coming in, and can you tell us what happened?
What happened, Pat, was something that would brighten any person's heart. We had calls that did not stop. In fact, they're still coming in, and I'm talking about days after the actual start of that census. The calls were from people from nearly every state, and they came to us with such rapidity that we couldn't keep up with them. Some people were on the phone for 75 minutes or longer trying to get through the busy lines. That is persistence. All we offered was a chance for them to help us, and they responded so beautifully.
I've been trying to call for an hour and a half, so imagine a lot of folks gave up. I really enjoyed it. I watched your very first show several months back.
Okay, well, we're glad you enjoyed the show, and please keep watching.
Really enjoyed it, especially the interview section. Really enjoy that the most, I think.
Well, very good.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Good job. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Every week I try to watch it.
Okay, any comments or questions about the show that you might have for us?
See, I've only had my dish for about a month, and I've been watching it. I like, some of the discussion panels that you've been having and stuff like that.
Well, I like to see a little more technical and less, information on different receivers and equipment more than so much talk,
No, I'm very satisfied with the way that you do it. I'm particularly happy with the segments you have on NASA. I think it's, I'm interested also in the space program, and I'm glad that you have that on there.
I like everything except the NASA part.
Well, I think you improve every week since you've gone to a nighttime format. We thoroughly enjoy it. I really can't think of anything.
Now, here are people from every region of the country, from nearly every state. I might say that Texas was the predominant leader in this poll, but these people were approximately half consumer and half dealer, some manufacturers, distributors, but predominantly dealers, the other half consumers. The consumers were surprisingly interested in all aspects of the industry. They were excited about this industry just as we are and as you are.
We asked them to call, and some of them called up to 45 minutes after the program Satellite Showtime ended. Then there was a lull in the calls. Nobody called for a while. We assumed they had quit. And 8 hours later, they were still calling and into the next day.
This is a fantastic response, and we are very, very thankful to all of you who responded, and hopefully we can respond to some of the requests that you had. I would say, basically we can say that the people were very satisfied with the programming. We urge them to comment and to offer suggestions. The suggestion that came, I think number one, is we would like to have even more technical aspects of the industry. We want more how-to and what to watch and, well, hands-on how to fix type of, and that came from dealers and consumers too.
Also, they would like to continue to see a lot on scrambling.
Right.
Brought up to date on that and see how the situation is going on scrambling.
They appreciated what we've already had on scrambling, and they're very concerned on that issue, and they're very adamant about their opposition to scrambling without any recourse to getting unscrambled signals.
Anything else, Joe, to add to that?
Only that we just want to thank the people one more time for the tremendous response. We appreciate it very, very deeply.
Thanks, Joe, very much. Because we know several thousand of you were waiting to call us on our viewership census, we want to let you know it's not too late to call. You can call tonight. Our toll-free number is 800-826-5285. And because so many of the lines were busy last week, we have 2 more telephone lines and numbers for you to call. Those numbers are 608-647-4246 and 608-647-8902. Those last 2 numbers are not toll-free. The toll-free number again is 1-800-826-5285. Please call us tonight. We're waiting for your call. You can tell people are upset about the issue of scrambling just by the phone calls we've been receiving about it.
The only thing I'd like to hear a little bit more about is what they're doing on this scrambling bit. And HBO and those other ones, if they think people are going to pay big money for decoders, they're nuts. No way. There's too many other things to watch on there without paying those jokers.
Well, I thank you for your comment. We'll try to answer your questions for you on an upcoming show.
Okay, they can stop it. I mean that in capital letters.
Regarding scrambling, there are 2 bills in Congress right now waiting for your support. One calls for a 2-year halt to scrambling, the other for a fair marketing plan for programming in the event of scrambling. These bills need your support. You are encouraged to write to your congressperson and tell him or her to co-sponsor one of the bills. Those bills are H.R. 1769 and H.R. 1840. The bills right now are in the hands of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. The 1985 SAT Expo in Denver is next week, and I'm sure you'll be able to hear a lot about scrambling and other topics there. STV Magazine has given us some information about another satellite trade show. A tentative time and location have been announced for next year's Space STTI 1986 Las Vegas show. The tentative time is mid-February, and the tentative site, the Hilton Convention Center. More than 14,000 people attended the Las Vegas show last month at the MGM Grand, and the show must now be moved to a bigger location. The Federal Communications Commission is still taking comments on a zoning proposal. The proposed rule would preempt local zoning in cases where the zoning is overly restrictive. An aide to Senator Barry Goldwater, who urged the FCC to take action on zoning, says he expects the new zoning rule to be in effect July 1st. Here's some other news from STV Magazine. Panasonic has recognized a problem and is going to fix it. The company is recalling its Model 2000 receiver because of a technical problem. The company is paying for the freight and inconvenience to dealers and customers. The Luxor and Oak satellite companies are waiting to fill a big gap in the skies. That gap was formed when USCI, United Satellite Communications Incorporated, went off the air. USCI was the first direct broadcast system service and had 11,000 subscribers. Luxor and Oak Satellite are apparently in on a joint venture to start their own 12 gigahertz DBS service in Canada to try to fill the gap USCI left. There are some sales of property in the works in the satellite industry. The venture capital group is apparently eyeing Anderson Scientific, and that is a TVRO component manufacturer. Cincinnati Microwave is reportedly hoping to buy Wilson Microwave, and High-Tech has purchased the assets, inventory, and equipment of the Gould Corporation as part of a limited-time partnership. Those news items brought to you through the cooperation of STV Magazine. Please keep on calling us tonight at Satellite Showtime. Our toll-free number is 1-800-826-5285. We have 2 other lines open too. Those numbers are 608-647-8902 and 608-647-4246. Coming up on Satellite Showtime, the results of a brand new consumer survey by OnSat.
Want to know more about satellite TV? Then go to the source for product reviews and how-tos. We're on the road and out in space and sometimes in very cold places with features and technical reports. It's all in satellite TV. That's only $19.95 for 12 big issues of STV Magazine. Call now, 1-800-438-2020, and get this LCD calendar clock free with your subscription. That's 12 big issues of STV Magazine and the clock for only $19.95. The number again is 1-800-438-2020. 1-800-438-2020. Call now.
OnSat Magazine right now is compiling results of a consumer questionnaire. Those survey results will be featured in the June issue of OnSat, and full results will be in next month's STV Magazine. Here's a sneak preview of the survey answered by approximately 5,000 consumers. People were asked why they bought a home satellite system. Here are the results. 28 said they bought a home satellite system because they had no cable. 5% because they had poor cable, 30% because they had poor programming, 29% because of poor TV reception, and 7% because cable is too expensive, they say. In a hypothetical situation, what would OnSat readers do if a group of 6 popular programmers decided to scramble? Would they be willing to pay for that service, and if so, how much? 38% said they would not pay a thing for programming. The next biggest percentages, 13 and 14%, said they'd pay $5 and $10 a month respectively for programming. The percentages dipped from there, from 1% who said they'd pay $30 a month to 6% who say they would pay under $1 a month for programming. Among other findings of OnSat, most home satellite system owners have had their systems less than a year, and 40 times as many people say they watch more TV now than before they bought their satellite systems. Full marketing results can be seen in the June issue of STV magazine, and you'll also find some results of the survey in next month's OnSat. More of Satellite Showtime right after this.
Are you confused about satellite programming guides? Are you tired of monthly inaccurate guides that are big and bulky and about as much fun to use as a city phone book? How about tabloids with hard-to-read print, incomplete movie listings that are about as easy to use as a road map? Or newspaper guides with confusing grids that fall apart in your hands? There is an alternative. OnSat, the easy-to-read, easy-to-use weekly programming guide with more movies and sports. Best of all, OnSat is only $39. That's right, 52 issues for only $39. But don't take our word for it. We'll send you a free copy of OnSat, and you can judge for yourself. And if you're a dealer, ask about our dealer program. Make your customers happy and make money. Call OnSat now. Toll-free 1-800-438-2020 or write OnSat, Box 2347, Shelby, North Carolina, 28150. OnSat, you've seen the rest. Now try the best.
NASA is the agency responsible for putting our satellites into space. From NASA, here's the story of the Space Shuttle Discovery's flight in late August and early September of last year.
This is Discovery, the newest orbiter to be added to the Space Shuttle fleet. There are now 3 orbiters, each capable of round-trip flights into space, and a 4th in production. Discovery will be making its maiden flight soon, carrying a crew of 6 and a payload bay loaded with a satellite and solar array to be deployed and experiments to be performed. Commanding the 7-day flight, 50-year-old Hank Hartsfield from Birmingham, Alabama. This will be Hartsfield's 2nd space shuttle mission.
Our primary objective is to test out a new vehicle, Discovery, and deliver it to the fleet. And, of course, the objectives of servicing our customers is not secondary to that, but I think most of us on the crew are looking forward to testing a new bird and bringing it on board.
One of the major exercises will be the first demonstration of a lightweight electric power generating solar array built by Lockheed and often referred to as a wing. When fully extended, it will raise more than 10 stories above the Space Shuttle Orbiter cargo bay. Yet when stored for launch and landing, the wing folds into a package only 7 inches thick. 35-year-old astronaut Dr. Judy Resnick from Akron, Ohio, will have the prime responsibility for testing the solar array experiment.
It only weighs a couple hundred pounds, yet it has the possibility of carrying 12.5 kilowatts to supplement power either for orbiter missions that need an extended duration or perhaps for future space stations. We'll be extending and retracting that solar wing several times and trying to understand its dynamics with the reaction control system of the orbiter.
Another major payload is a continuous flow electrophoresis system which has been carried on 4 previous flights and has the potential for improving the production of vaccines and serums used in disease prevention or treatment. Charles Walker, 35, from Bedford, Indiana, will be the first non-astronaut to fly on the space shuttle as a commercial payload specialist. Walker, an engineer with the McDonnell Douglas Corporation, will be operating and maintaining the medical machine throughout the flight.
The company has had an ongoing project, this electrophoresis project, for some 7 or 8 years with the intent of providing a new line of business, actually using space as the resource for a new business.
Astronauts Richard Mullane and Dr. Steve Hawley, flying for the first time as mission specialists, will be responsible for deploying a new SYNCOM communication satellite and for making Earth observation photographs using a large field camera. Mullane and 32-year-old Hawley from Ottawa, Kansas, are shown here preparing for spacewalk practice.
We don't currently have an EVA scheduled, but we always train 2 of the crew to perform contingency EVA tasks should those be required, and Mike and I have done that training and are prepared to do that if necessary.
Mission Specialist Mike Mullane, 38, is from Wichita Falls, Texas.
Well, the training has really consisted of 2 separate areas, training on the orbiter, learning the orbiter systems, and learning the payloads. We have slowly increased in intensity of training as the year has progressed.
38-year-old Mike Coates of Riverside, California, will be the pilot for Discovery's first flight.
During launch and entry, of course, I'm sitting on the right side where most of the controls for the orbiter systems are located. On orbit, I'll be doing most of the maneuvering of the orbiter during the satellite deploys and the solar array extension.
Space Shuttle Discovery, a new orbiter and the crew are nearly ready for this, the 12th flight.
Only a few years ago, people would have thought space shuttle flights such as that one impossible. Well, there's a man in California who doesn't know the word impossible anymore. He couldn't believe what he was seeing on TV was the real thing, but it was. It was a Soviet station. Here's the report from the New Tech Times, based in Madison, Wisconsin.
Московское время 7 часов 30 минут. Информационный выпуск маяка.
It's like I am being led into some private information or being shown some, I'm sneaking a peek at the inside of the Soviet Union that perhaps they might not want me to see if they knew about it. Just that kind of thrill.
Mike Smithwick watches Moscow's central TV station at home in Los Altos Hills, California. He tunes in his 4-meter dish just below satellite TV channel 9, and Moscow comes in as clear as the mountains surrounding San Francisco Bay. Smithwick says the stereotyped image he had about Soviet TV turned out to be true.
Their programming covers the usual gambit of news to sports, local chess matches, soccer games, and a good share of propaganda programming. There is a film about American militarism around the world. They tried to compare the United States to Nazi Germany, showing a $sign next to a swastika, and then right after that they showed the Dove of Peace with the hammer and sickle.
Mike has scanned the amateur radio band since 1972. His interest in NASA coverage of the space shuttle missions hiked his effort to capture pictures from communications birds. The Russian satellites are called Molina. It means lightning or flash. Its signals have been catching amateur eyes since 1977. The satellites move in an egg-shaped orbit, peaking twice, 23,000 miles above the Earth, once above central Russia and once above Canada.
There is a series of 4 satellites in a 24-hour orbit, so it's imperative that somebody actually be out at the antenna most of the time tracking the things. Since the signals are so brutally strong down here, I had no problem in seeing the signals, and in some cases they were nearly snow-free on my system, which is basically an average home satellite television system. The only thing that one must have is a dish which can be turned around northwards.
The picture is black and white. It's surprisingly clear. The difference in broadcast standards keeps the average American satellite receiver from pulling in full-color pictures. The sound is scrambled, but Smithwick listens to the simulcast on Russian radio. The orbiter logo signals the end of one satellite's broadcast period and the beginning of another.
As of a couple of years ago, the satellites were being used as a backup link for the hotline. So it was necessary that they do have them active while they were in both view of Russia and Washington, D.C. Second, it is believed that the broadcasts are being sent, besides to Russia, down to Cuba.
There are serious studies of Soviet TV being conducted at Columbia University. Advanced equipment captures clear color pictures. A satellite bridge has linked a West Coast group to Moscow in assorted cultural exchanges. Smithwick is satisfied in just having mastered the challenge of catching the show.
I suppose the best part of Soviet television is that there are no commercials, but sometimes the commercials on American television are the most entertaining parts, so it's kind of both good and bad.
Mike Smithwick isn't the only one scanning the satellites. Many people are finding international TV both enlightening and entertaining. Mike says besides the Soviet TV, he likes watching South American and Japanese stations. Coming up on Satellite Showtime, the hot issue of scrambling discussed by a panel. Please stay with us.
Welcome to the world of Satellite TV Opportunities, the magazine that brings you inside information on successful marketing and sales techniques, details the latest in new technology, and lets you see how other dealers increase their sales and profits.
Satellite TV Opportunities magazine is the marketing techniques magazine for satellite TV dealers. Our single purpose is to help dealers increase their sales and their profits through improved marketing techniques.
Satellite TV Opportunities offers insight into the latest trends in marketing, profiles thriving businesses, and surveys what TVRO buyers are really after. Subscribe today by calling 1-800-922-2812. For $25, you get a full year's subscription to Satellite TV Opportunities, a magazine full of new ideas that will help your business thrive. 1-800-922-2812. Call today. MasterCard and Visa accepted.
We appreciate your phone calls tonight. Please keep them coming. Call us and tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and how you are interested in the satellite industry. Our toll-free number is 1-800-826-5285. We have two other numbers you can call too that are not toll-free, 608-647-4246 and 608-647-8902. Some of you have been calling in to tell us you like the panel discussions we have on. Well, we're glad, and you're going to be glad about what you're going to see right now. It's another segment of our 2-hour panel discussion, Satellite Preview 85. It was taped in March and focuses on the hot issue of scrambling. It is moderated by STV magazine editor Chris Schultheis.
Okay, we're back with the scrambling issue. And Lloyd, we had to cut you off, so why don't you pick up from there?
The issue that comes about, I guess, is what cost factors are we opening and closing here, Chuck? We're looking for a cost that the consumer can pay that's, quote, fair. What is the complexity, taking aside scrambling, paying programming fees in general? Like, if I wanted to pay C-SPAN $20 a year because it's worth it to me, why can't I do that and have some marketing mode that allows that to happen, where my choices don't simply come down to scrambled versus unscrambled?
Let me make sure I'm clear on what you're saying. C-SPAN, not scrambled.
Right.
Why can't we
it's a service to me.
Yeah. Why can't we set up an unscrambled marketing system to collect fees and provide support to that program? Well, you know, there's been several proposals in that area of unscrambled signals, of marketing unscrambled signals. One was to tack an additional fee on top of program guides. And on that fee would go to a pool. The pool would then be distributed among the various programs on some sort of equitable basis that they agreed to, so they would receive a payment from satellite earth station. Another was the point of purchase fee, in which you would guess the component life, and then on that you would say, okay, then someone pays approximately maybe $60 on top of the cost of his system, and that would go into a pool, and that pool would be divided up in the same sort of equitable way. Those are the only two probably realistic methods of unscrambled, marketing unscrambled systems that I've heard. There's a third one, of course, is that they would set up through distributors and dealers and cable companies a mechanism to have monthly subscriptions and to bill people and do this off lists. The difficulty of that is there's just no way you can properly police it. I mean, you don't really know who watches what, when, and where. I mean, just because I have an Earth station doesn't mean I watch movies. I mean, I may be a sports buff and I may never watch a movie. There's no real true way to, even with the heavier penalties, of really trying to measure that and to police it and to ensure that the programmers are being properly paid. So that would be the only mechanisms. So far as I can see, the larger programmers are not interested in any form in trying to do something like that.
Compensation for the basic services.
I think there are some programmers that are getting interested.
Some of the smaller programmers, I think, would be interested.
One of the big four at least told me point blank.
Is there any historical or parallel comparison for this kind of collection of fees that you know of?
Chris, I'm not a believer, and I think if you wanted to sell football helmets and you were going to put them out in the storefront and then go and play golf and tell people put your 20 bucks in the slot, I think when you came back you'd find the slot empty and the football helmets would be gone.
The honor system is.
So I'm not a believer. I'm just telling you that it is not true that at least some of the programmers are not contemplating it. At least one of them told me recently that if they're getting really cheesed off with the delays in encrypting the signals, and if they can't get them encrypted, and they're not going to buy until HBO or one of the others does it right, if it doesn't happen, that they will consider quite seriously by June setting up a mechanism to
some kind of cooperative collection.
Yeah, send your money into this address.
Gary, you indicated that there was a few questions about scrambling you'd like to see answered from your point of view.
Well, I think the central question, what it all boils down to, is people that either have a dish or contemplating a dish are wondering, am I going to sit there with a $2,500 investment and have nothing to watch? What's to prevent this? Why doesn't everyone scramble? And somebody can fill me in on this. That's
fair to say that if there are 100 channels, 12 to 14 in the quote premium subscription pay, whatever you want to call them, 12 to 14 have a vested interest in scrambling. 86 do not. How do we make those 86 come around to the value of? Again, it is a problem, but the vested interest portion, I come back to cable. I consider premium service to be something that a cable operator charges more than $1 a month for. And there really aren't that many of them. But they have a big impact on that selection of viewing.
It's probably safe to say that the majority of home satellite owners buy the system to get the premium programming, sports, movies, entertainment, along with all the other variety.
I think that there are several things you have to take a look at. First of all, there's a claim on the part of the scrambling programmers that they're going to make available to the home Earth market, home satellite Earth station market, their systems. Now the question is, are they really? I mean, all the indications are so far, although they say that, they're going to make it so expensive or so difficult that it probably may not, at least for the first year or two, be really available. The second part of that is that the first time, when someone scrambles and we don't have access at a reasonable fee, there's going to be legislation. There's going to be legislation introduced even prior to that time, and there's going to be legal action. I mean, we believe that every American has an equal right in access, and we're going to fight for that right for every American. So those actions will take place. The third thing is that, generally speaking, we believe very strongly with the continued growth of satellite Earth stations, there's going to be more programming, not less. And we may have a little jaunt here, and we may lose some very important programs to us, and we're going to fight to retain those. But when there's millions and millions of Earth stations out there, there's going to be not 100 programs available. There's going to be 200, 300, 400 programs available that encompasses education, information systems. I mean, just going to be local programming will grow. Opportunities for creative programming is going to grow. It's going to be fantastic. So the answer is long-term, I mean, there's no doubt there's going to be more programs available, not less. The short-term, we're going to have a glitch here until we fight through these battles, but we're going to win the battles. There's another thing, though, that I think is interesting, and I don't know, STV Magazine has done a survey, and I don't know if you finished it yet or not, or have some of that data, but it seems as though that there is the PR efforts that the programmers are putting on it, which is seemingly having a strong impact, should be countered pretty strongly, because when you look at some of the other programming and what it offers, that it's not such a terrible, if we didn't have access to those programs, you still have a tremendous offering. And Chris, I don't know if you have those numbers put together yet, but I think it's fairly substantial in terms of the number of movies offered per week and sporting events and this kind of thing.
Yeah, it really is. We were looking at, right across the board, perhaps a 10% decrease in categories like movies, sports, general, informational, narrowcasting. That's all we were looking at. And this was based on calling all the programmers and saying, do you intend to scramble? We deducted all the ones that said, yes, they intend to. And keep in mind that when they said, yes, we intend to, doesn't mean they ever will. Many of them have not looked deeply into the problem. They aren't aware of the difficulties that they are faced with. But what we ended up with is a decrease of only 10%, which means that 90% of the programming was still there, 90% of the different categories.
I think there's an interesting thing I'd like to address, one of the questions you raised, like what is the timing? What's the slope of this guy going black image? First of all, Chris, you said that, that these dish prospective buyers may have a large perception about pay TV, and I'm not sure I would completely agree with that. I think those people stagger into the store trying to get a dish so they get television. I don't know that they have a big perception that HBO is a pay thing. I'll bet you that if you went door to door in the average town and knocked on the door and asked the lady, do you know what pay TV is? I don't think she could answer the question. She'd tell you, that's where I go to the drugstore and get a video cassette. So the viewing time numbers are interesting, and they say that people spend 2/3 of their time watching networks and superstations, which will probably never scramble. That means that 30% or 31% that after they get the Earth station start watching Disney and HBO and Showtime are still in the minority. So I believe that the programming available, once we get over maybe this little hump of whatever's going on in '85, I don't think it's going to affect whether they scramble or not. And I agree with you, the material and content will remain available out there.
Well, one of the other opportunities that it opens up, and Chuck and I both know people who are looking at this, and of course you do also, is that one of the scenarios is let HBO and Showtime scramble, because we will then get a group together and initiate our own premium service that will be available. And one of the interesting things, a survey that I did about a year ago, just a mini survey, was the question was, in a 2-hour movie, would you mind if there were 3 station breaks for advertising?
Right.
And the answer was unequivocally no. And often the comments were, great time to get up and get a sandwich and a beer. In other words, do we really need advertising-free premium services? Right. Lloyd, you talked about that a little before.
I think that the combination, very briefly, because I don't want to dwell on this, but a year ago when I was on this program, to the week, I said, watch out for VCRs. And I think VCRs represent an opportunity for satellite dealers that they probably overlooked. In other words, the multiple means of getting the same product. If I'm watching Raiders and I want it bad enough, cable, satellite, 12 gig DBS, MDS, it's not going to matter to the user. Cable has a real problem with VCRs that I would say is greater than the satellite home Earth station dealer's problem with VCRs.
Oh, it's on a magnitude of 100 times as bad.
And if you lose all the movie services,
it's going to single-handedly change the price structure. And remember, there's 35 million people that pay for cable, and they pay something like $17 a month for it. I would predict, in fact, the price structure is going to collapse in the cable industry or in any other industry where they're charging people these high numbers, because translating what you said is that the incremental cost of watching a piece of video entertainment is going down, not up. Tapes and VCRs used to be $3, now they're $1 in a lot of places. So that means that the other entertainment delivery things that compete with that are also going to have to go down.
I think what we've really hit upon is that part of the battle that we feel at Space that we have to conduct, we've got legislation going, we've got legal going, but there's a third battle, and that's this public relations battle. We have, our executive committee just approved a very substantial budget from $0 up to over $100,000 to initiate a major PR effort throughout the United States in support of our dealers. And now the board of directors has yet to approve that, so I can't say that it's for sure, but we feel pretty confident that the board will support this effort. The idea being, of course, is that Lloyd is absolutely right, and Dave, I mean, a VCR, I mean, why, with all this programming up there, if you lose HBO, so what? I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark was available 9 months before HBO had it for $1.50 in your VCR. And so the fact is, we need to do a major counter now, but it'll be on the offense PR effort to say, look, the programming is up there. It's going to be a lot of programming, even if we don't have access to these premium programs. They say we're going to have access. There are other ways of getting that same material, and in some ways cheaper, and that it's going to grow in programming. So we have a major public relations effort that we have to get off the ground to really inform the public and support our dealers so they can inform the public about the vast opportunities, even without having total access to the premium programmers.
A couple of weeks ago, there was a space meeting in Washington with the dealer board of space, and they went around on Capitol Hill and visited congressmen. Why don't you tell our audience what the response was from the congressman?
It was really rewarding. In fact, we're going to do a lot more of this of bringing dealers into Washington because it had a very, very positive impact for the industry. With one exception, well over 20 congressmen and senators were visited. With one exception, every one of them said, absolutely, we paid our tax money to get those satellites up there, billions of dollars. We want more communications, more access, not limited. And we've had a really resounding support in the scrambling issue. By the way, the one exception that took place changed his mind after a handwritten letter was sent back to him from that particular dealer, and he's now indicated he's 100% behind us also. So I can say that we can have, especially in the scrambling area, have positive impact, and I can only recommend to the viewers that if they want to help ensure access, then we're going to be asking for support both on the part of our own members and dealers and the consumer to handwrite letters to their congressmen and senators saying how important it is for us to have total access to all this programming. So in that area, I think we're going to get a lot of congressional support. They don't like passing laws forcing businesses to deal in certain ways. But if Horowitz, who from HBO, says they're going to darken the skies, I think we're going to have congressmen saying, wait a minute, that's against public interest to black the skies and not make it available.
What we're talking about here is equal opportunity.
If you liked what you just saw, you can see more of it the evenings of May 28th and June 4th. On those evenings, you'll be able to see the entire panel discussion, Satellite Preview 85. It's 2 hours long and will start 2 hours before our regular satellite showtime. So, Satellite Preview will be on May 28th and June 4th, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. Coming up on this evening's Satellite Showtime, the Calltronics Video Newsletter.
For a limited time only, you can receive Channel Guide for a special reduced rate. For just $9, you will receive 8 weeks of Channel Guide, a month of Galaxy One magazine, and the all-new 1985 Whole Earth Station catalog. That's a $20 value for just $9. Then close check and address, and you'll start receiving the original grid format for satellite TV. Due to this low price, no phone orders may be taken. Write today. Channel Guide, Department 808A, P.O. Box 1633, Englewood, Colorado, 80150. Do it today.
Hi, Joe Kelch here with the video newsletter for Calltronics and for you. Tonight we have a special program with a lot of news and the Trans 10 and also our line of receivers. Much more. Be sure to watch.
Hello, this is Dale Davenport here in the Tech Corner to go over the basic home system. Now, the satellites rotate around the Earth in a geosynchronous orbit. Geosynchronous simply means that the satellites rotate with the Earth such that from a point here on Earth, the satellites appear not to be moving. Now, these satellites are located approximately 22,300 miles above the equator, and they transmit a signal to your home system in the 3.7 to 4.2 gigahertz range. Now, after traveling its 22,300 miles to your dish, the signal is at a very, very low level. Now, the first thing the signal will hit is the reflector. This reflector is a parabolic reflector. And one of the properties of a parabola are that the rays striking your parabolic reflector will be reflected and cross at a point known as the focal point located out here in front of your dish. Now you will have a much higher concentrated signal at the focal point, and the level of this concentrated signal is directly proportional to the gain of your antenna. And the gain is also directly proportional to the size of your antenna. Now, a figure of 39 to 40 dB is a typical gain figure for an antenna. But remember again that the gain is directly proportional to the size of the antenna. You will obtain more gain from a 10-foot antenna than you would from a 6-foot. Now, a good way to determine what size of an antenna you would need for your area would be to simply take an afternoon drive and see what everyone else is using. If you see a lot of 10-foot antennas, you could probably figure that you will require a 10-foot antenna in your area. Another thing to consider when purchasing an antenna is the beam width of that antenna. Now, with the upcoming 2-degree spacing, you are going to want an antenna with a beam width of less than 2 degrees so that the operation of your antenna will not be degraded when the satellites are spaced 2 degrees apart. The beam width and the gain figurements can be obtained from the manufacturer's data sheet of the antenna. Now, located at the focal point will be your polarator device. The polarator device is where the actual antenna of your system is located, and this is a typical polarator device. Now, down inside you can see the probe, and the probe is the actual antenna. Now, on SATCOM satellites, the even channels come down horizontally polarized and the odd channels come down vertically polarized. And this small probe in the polarator device physically switches 90 degrees to pick up your odds and your even channels. Now, from the polarator device, the signal is transferred to the LNA. The LNA is simply a broadband amplifier used to amplify the 3.7 to 4.2 gigahertz baseband to a usable level. Now, some things to look for when purchasing an LNA would be the noise rating. The noise rating will be labeled in degrees Kelvin, and the lower this rating is, the better your unit will perform. Now, for example, if a customer has a 7-foot antenna and a given receiver and 2 LNAs, one a 100-degree and one an 80-degree, the 80-degree LNA would provide a better picture. Another thing to consider is the gain that your LNA is going to provide. Now, on the market today, you can obtain LNAs that will provide anywhere from 30 to 50 dB of gain. The dealer will generally match the gain of the LNA to what is required by the down converter. It has been my experience that I've had the best results using a 50 dB gain amplifier. Now, from the LNA, you simply have an amplified version of the 3.7 to 4.2 gigahertz baseband. At this high of a frequency, there is a lot of loss in cable. So we use a special cable known as a 213 or a 214 cable, which provides a much lower loss at this high frequency. This cable is used to transfer the information from the LNA to the down converter. Now, the down converter in a basic home system will be located at the dish and simply takes the audio and video information from one channel at a time and down converts it down to a 70 megahertz level. Now, at this lower frequency, a less expensive cable can be used to transfer the information from the dish 100 or 200 feet to the receiver inside the house. Typically, a RG59 cable is used, which looks very similar to this. Now, once the audio and video information is transferred to the receiver inside the house, the receiver will take the video and audio information and remodulate it onto a carrier that your TV can understand. Now, some things that I would look for in a receiver are, say, does it have tunable audio? Tunable audio is required in order to pick up the different subcarriers. Audio subcarriers are simply audio feeds or radio stations that are carried via satellite. Also, check to see that the polarator control in the receiver itself is compatible to the polarator device you've chosen to use. Your dealer should take care of this, but it's something I would check. Also, check to see that the modulated output of your receiver that will be fed to your TV, check to see that it is not on the same channel as what a local TV station is on. This is done to avoid any interference between the local TV station and the modulated output of your receiver. Another thing I would check is, does it have raw audio and raw video outputs? These are very handy when recording with a VCR or for use with a monitor. Now, other options such as stereo can be left up to the consumer, just what he desires for his own home system. Now again, the things you're really going to want to look at are the size of the dish, the gain figurement of the dish, the beam width of the dish, the noise rating of your LNA, and the gain figure of your LNA. The options available on the receiver will be pretty much up to the consumer, what he needs and just how much money he is willing to spend to obtain these options. Well, I hope I've answered some of your questions as to just what to look for in a home satellite system. Until next time, this is Dale in the Tech Corner.
Quality, performance, and strength, and all at a highly competitive price. That's the all-new Trans 10 Mesh by Qualtronics. Engineered for maximum durability and reflective surface, the Trans 10 is also extremely easy to look at. It has a baked acrylic, thermoset black finish that gives it that low luster appeal. Aesthetically speaking, the Trans 10 is not just another beautiful dish. It's got plenty of other qualities to back it up. The extra strength hub is parabolically formed to maximize signal strength. Like the keystone of a great building, the hub is engineered of 3/16" prime steel and measures a solid 14.5 inches in diameter. The ribs are made of superior strength tubular 16-gauge steel encased in polytrans vinyl, especially formulated for the satellite industry. The end result, solid strength, at the same time minimizing the size of the ribbing. This avoids the bulky appearance of so many mesh antennas. The polytrans vinyl ribs of the Trans 10, in another innovative feature, have full half-inch unobstructed mesh retaining channels. The mesh panels slide smoothly into place, simply and surely, making for fast assembly time and snug positioning. Another bonus is better retention of panels in high wind areas and maximum reflector signal with no gaps in that reflective area. It's a distinct advantage over other mesh designs. High gain means better performance. The Trans 10 has an outer rim of rigid extruded aluminum anchored securely to the ribs and center hub to form a solid framework for the panels. The mesh panels are of expanded flattened aluminum with a 1.040 thickness and 0.045 strand width. The mesh and all exposed frame parts have a baked acrylic thermoset finish. All antenna hardware is plated for weather protection. The Trans 10, with its 10-foot diameter, is designed for maximum gain, a focal length of 44 1/4 inches, and an FD ratio of 0.375. The Trans 10 is UPS shippable anywhere in the United States with a weight of 145 pounds without mount. It means easy handling. Without a doubt, the Trans 10 by Qualtronics is the front runner in the industry, the ultimate mesh antenna design because of quality, performance, and eye appeal.
In addition to the distributors that you saw on the screen, there's one additional one, National CompuSat of Prairie View, Kansas. The numbers there are 913-973-2777 or in-state 800-232-0015. In addition to our Trans 10, of course, we have the nice series of stainless steel antennas which receive a lot of good notice. In our recent viewer survey, we had a good response on our satellite products, including the stainless steel. One especially was enjoyable from Coal City, Illinois. A gentleman called and said he's getting fantastic reception with his small 66-inch stainless steel antenna from Caltronics. We appreciated that from Coal City, Illinois, and the others also.
Caltronics is happy to be an authorized distributor and service center for the innovative satellite home electronics equipment from Luxor, a name synonymous with high technology. We would like to take a moment to give you a closer look at some of these innovative electronics from Luxor. The Luxor 9550 remote-controlled satellite receiver. The Luxor 9550 gives you total control over the satellite spectrum. 24 channels can be selected, fine-tuned, and then programmed for automatic recall. 4 different audio systems, mono or stereo, can be selected in either wide or narrow bandwidth for programming with any channel. A built-in stereo processor for both TV audio or stereo sound only eliminates the necessity for an add-on external stereo processor. An RF modulator in the receiver provides easy connection to any TV set. The 9550 is not only a satellite television receiver, it will feed a hi-fi stereo system with quality audio-only signals. You can also make professional quality VCR recordings via the audio-video baseband outputs. Compare these features with systems costing much more. You'll see the extra value in investing in a Luxor. The Luxor 9534 antenna actuator. Now you can have fully automatic satellite selection at your command by remote control. The location of 30 different satellites can be precisely defined and programmed for automatic recall at the touch of a button. The unit is designed coordinated to interface with a Luxor 9550 satellite receiver. Introducing a new generation of electronic excellence. Now, several television sets throughout your home can have independent channel selection at the same time from a single antenna. Advanced block conversion and high-performance technology bring you quality picture stability. Temperature-sensitive components are in the receiver inside the house. A built-in stereo processor for both TV audio and stereo sound only eliminates the necessity for an external add-on stereo processor. The entire system is easy to install. It's great. Simultaneous multi-channel TV viewing is here. The art and science of electronics put a whole new world of television right at your fingertips. The Scantic is packed with state-of-the-art features designed and built to the most exacting European standards. Created to expand your video and audio universe into crystal clear reception and virtually unlimited viewing selection. Touch your way to a wonderful new experience in sight and sound. Easy channel selection, 24 programmable channels. Pick up all 24 transponder channels on each satellite with simple digital push-button control. Choose even or odd channels, step up or down at the touch of a button. Bright LED display can be seen from across the room. Precise fine-tuning for each of 24 channels is automatic and programmable. You can also make your own fine-tuning adjustments with a fingertip touch with the AFC off. Feature for features, Scantic delivers more versatility and higher quality performance automatically for less.
Caltronics will be at the Denver show, the SAT Expo that's coming up very soon. We hope to see you there. The Caltronics booths, 160 and 161, 170 and 171. We want to see you there. Well, that's all for our video newsletter for this evening. Join us next week at the same time, same station.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate your phone calls tonight. We like to hear from our viewers. Our toll-free number is 1-800-826-5285. And there are two other numbers available to you to call, 608-647-8902 and 608-647-4246. It's not too late to call tonight. If you want to call in a few minutes, we'll be here for a few more minutes. Until next week, good night.